Hey buddies, it's your girl AyChristene, and today we are checking out Film Theory. This series is not made for kids. Guby. This is by the film theorist. I've never even heard of this show, Guby. No idea what it is. So we're gonna learn about it. We're gonna see why they deem it not for kids. And let's see what's in store. Links down below to become a member or patron to get the uncut reaction to all the shows that we check out. I love you guys, as always. And no, I'm just kidding. Let's get started.
My name is Guby, and today we're gonna learn about film theory.
Okay,
Do
so
you
they're,
know about film theory?
I guess
My
they're doing
favorite
it
part
in
of
the
film theory
series.
is the
What? What?
Somebody help me!
What?
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that wants to know your favorite color. My favorite color is the subscribe button. If there's one thing that I have been most excited about coming in as the host of Film Theory,
I also like
it's the
yellow.
opportunity to really dive into the work of independent creators. Don't get me wrong,
yes.
big budget content is great, but I
Great.
found that, especially in horror, it's the independent creators who are able
I like
to
the
craft the
lore.
most memorable scares.
The
Because they
lore.
can dive into what truly terrifies them instead of what a boardroom thinks will spook the ideal number of people, but not too much.
You know
because
what? We
want them
gotta
to come
check out
back
that
for a
video.
sequel. That independence.
What
that
did he
level
say
of
that was called the
creativity
Pooniverse?
and mystery and horror is what we're going to find today in Guby. The heck is Guby? I
Yeah.
do ask. Well,
What
other
is
than a word
Guby?
that is really fun to say, Guby is an analog
Yeah, it is
horror
a fun
channel
word
that
to
you're going to
say.
find right here on YouTube.com.
Okay.
But rather than getting its spoofs from evil animatronics like the Walton Files, or creepy found footage like the Backrooms, or body horror like the Man in the Suit, Guby is more like a parody of classic call-and-response children's entertainment like Dora the Explorer or Blue's Clues.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
number
When you're
one.
waiting for them to reply.
This is number 2. It comes after 1.
But
Okay.
hey, YouTube, it's not too much like those series, as the channel description tells you repeatedly, Guby is not made for kids.
Oh,
This is one
okay.
of those series that was
Okay.
recommended to us by the good folks over on the Film Theory subreddit.
They
And I have to say,
made
you
sure
guys
it's known.
nailed it. Matt and I have been covering it over on GT Live, and it's some of the most fun that we've ever had overthinking things.
I saw
Okay.
some lore. Abby.
Last seen in her home, January 3rd, 2004? Watching something in her pajamas. Her
Yeah.
parents,
Right.
Jamie and Albert Lang
told no one.
in someone in the living room.
Nah, I can't
What?
remember.
Yeah, right. Oh,
There you go. It
No,
becomes
honestly,
clear.
We really
It comes
overthought
clear.
it. By the time we got to our fifth
Oh,
cipher
and 7,
puzzle,
that's
I knew
Mass
this
Effect.
was something that I just had to cover here on the channel. And
Okay.
after diving into it, there is so much more to Guby going on than the happy-go-lucky surface would have you believe. You see, underneath this facade of a smiling yellow noodle friend is a dark
Is he
secret.
noodle?
An evil being literally worming its way into reality through the television and punishing any children that refuse to play along. Pick your favorite animal, loyal theorists. It's time to solve this mystery.
All right.
So, first things first. Guby is one of those series that is very dense. Covering each and every puzzle would take a very long time. So what we're going to do instead is hit the broad strokes and then dive into the main mysteries
That was a
of the
paintbrush.
story.
The way it came out, I thought it was
Let's start by
a
going
bottle.
over what's actually in the Guby videos. Each of these covers a topic that you'd expect to see in a kindergarten classroom.
All right,
Think letters, numbers, the color of blood, that sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
Now, you may not have noticed, but there is something very strange going on here. Yeah, the more you watch, the more you realize that something's not quite right with Guby.
Okay.
Sometimes Guby takes drastic personality shifts, asking for personal information.
Do you want to
What?
see my favorite number? It's on one of these.
And other times,
Oh my
Guby lets his
gosh.
darker interests come through.
You want to see my favorite animal?
What is
It's
it?
one of these.
And then sometimes, at random intervals, glitches will overtake the video.
Okay.
Today, we're going to learn about sound.
you get the idea.
What
now,
in
we
the-
don't need to sit here and go through every single video explaining exactly what happens. Please, go show some love to
Whenever it's,
Guby
like,
and watch through the videos
glitchy,
yourself. But I do want to talk about what's
that
buried
always
in these
creeps
videos.
me out.
See, in
Glitchy
classic
videos.
analog horror fashion, during some of these glitches, there will be pictures or information hidden in just a single frame of the
Pictures,
video. And let me tell you, Guby loves to use this trick. In Learn Numbers, there's some Morse code hidden in one of the glitches that's difficult to read, but likely translates to evolving. In Learn Shapes, we see various incarnations of Guby across different mediums.
See my favorite
realistic Guby, puppet Guby, an old school cutout style Guby. And in Learn Colors, the whole video ends with an extended glitchy clip of an entirely different video. But most prominently throughout multiple videos, we see bits and pieces of missing persons posters for children, all aged between 3 and 14.
What in the creep is that?
Just from a straightforward content perspective, that's Guby. So, what the heck is actually going on here?
Right.
Well, let's start out with the obvious bit. Guby here, he's clearly the reason that these kids are going missing. The first big piece of this puzzle is that the kids in these posters all seem to have gone missing while they were watching TV or in their living rooms. And we know that they were watching Guby because in Learn the Alphabet, we see that a victim's sister left the room to find their grandmother's credit card. Remember the clip we showed earlier?
Do you want to see my favorite number? It's one of these. Bring it over here.
What's more, during many of these glitches, we can see multiple images of different children sitting in living rooms looking directly at the camera.
That is
almost
wild.
as if the camera were actually a television. These are the kids that went missing, and we're seeing them from the point of view of the television. From the point of view of Guby. So somehow, Guby is kidnapping these kids through the TV, and we can even figure out how Guby is doing it, too. Over on GT Live, we wondered if the kids answering Guby's questions were sort of giving him permission to come into the real world and take them. But after rewatching the series, that's not actually what happens. In Learn Animals, Guby has this exchange with the viewer that we can hear.
I love animals. Do you?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
The kid answers Guby's question, and everything is great. But elsewhere in the video, the child interrupts Guby, and Guby does not take it well.
My favorite shape is...
My favorite shape is a circle.
Guby freaks out.
What does it say?
And notice that subtitle? It might look like nonsense, but it's actually jumbled up letters that when put in the right order
spoken to.
Only speak when spoken to. He's telling the child exactly how to play along, to get the answers he wants in the way he wants, when he wants. Also, notice that Guby straight up disappears here. This has to be when he's coming out of the TV to get the kids and drag them into his world. And just so we're all on the same page, this isn't the only time this happens.
And this is
A pig.
Again, those jumbled up captions read, "Listen to what I tell you, pig."
Oh
Guby
my
is
gosh.
then interrupted for a third and final time at the climax of the video.
You want to see my favorite animal? It's
No.
one of these. It's called a...
Not animal.
Once again, Guby goes wild, and the video just cuts to black. Oh, and also worth noting that the subtitles tell us that all animals have teeth, which is just factually inaccurate. I thought this was an educational program. So
hilarious.
Guby seems
Not
to
him-
be taking
not
these
him
kids that he
roasting
sees as not
its
doing
validity.
what they're told, speaking when they're not being spoken to, and dragging them into the TV.
And
But
calling them a
because of them
pig.
then, well, they become a part of Guby, still aware and still somewhat conscious. During many of the glitches across the whole series, sometimes sequences of numbers will flash on screen. Adept theorists will recognize these as some sort of cipher, and after some trial and error, I was able to figure out that they were actually tap codes, which we've covered before over on our sister location game theory. So go check that out if you want a really in-depth explanation. If I'm being frank, most of these aren't super important to the overall mystery.
I don't think
They're
I've
more
ever
so
played
used
cool
to
math
emphasize
games.
the
I want to
creep
dive
factor.
into those.
Like here, where they spell out, he is not who he says he is. Spooky, to be sure, but nothing new. However, there is another tap code hidden in a later video that reads, "Where are we?" asked Sophia. "We are in a beautiful meadow," whispered Michaela. "This is not a meadow," responded Sophia. Michaela and Sophia were two of the kids from the missing persons posters. And as we see here, they can still see. They can even talk to each other. And some of them even think that something is wrong. And also, we know that this meadow that Michaela is seeing isn't some sort of weird purgatory TV space, because some of the kids try to communicate with the outside world through Guby. Like here in Learn the Alphabet, where there's a moment where one of the kids seems to speak out of the TV.
My favorite words are...
Help me. Please help me.
That's not Guby. That's a little girl speaking.
Oh
Likely
my
Michaela, since that's the missing
gosh.
person poster we see shortly after this. In fact, we hear multiple voices come
It's
out of
hard.
Guby. Remember the deep
Like,
male
I
voice
know
we
this
heard back
isn't
in Learn
real,
Numbers?
but it's hard to not feel like it's
And
real.
in Learn
Like the
Sounds, we hear Gooby's favorite sound.
aspect
and
of
it sounds
missing
a lot
kids.
Like kids screaming.
You want to hear my favorite sound?
Plus, the name of the channel isn't just Guby. It's
What is
Guby
it?
and Friends. The Friends are clearly the people that he's absorbed.
That he's
And after
taken.
all of that evidence, if you're still doubting this, well, this should put a pretty little bow on the point. During one
Okay.
of the glitches, a random quote appears. This
What?
one isn't encrypted in a cipher or jumbled in a subtitle. It
Okay.
just reads, "To us as a burning bush, and said we could kill the hurricane bird." If that
What?
made no sense to you,
Right,
fair.
no.
It also made no sense to me, but after
Okay.
some digging, I found that it's actually a quote pulled from the short story titled "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream" by Harlan Ellison, which, hear this,
what a
involves
title.
a character being merged into an artificial intelligence and tortured forever. Yeah,
Oh my
I know. This was actually
gosh.
one of the main inspirations for the Amazing Digital Circus, and it sounds a lot like what's happening
okay.
here with Guby. Just some food for thought, y'all. So that
Yeah,
answers
yeah.
what Guby is and how he's doing it, but why? Why is he kidnapping all of these kids and sucking them into his TV
Yeah, why do
purgatory?
you- well,
well,
is it
for us
'cause-
to solve
'cause
that
he's
part
evil?
of the mystery, we're going to have to really dig deep.
He's
and solve
evil.
the biggest puzzle in the series so
Oh,
far.
who is
In the
Guby?
video Learn with Guby, we quickly see that something is off. This is the first video with no subject and no Guby. Instead, there's just static. But if
Okay.
you look down at the captions, you will see something.
All right. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So, if you're like me, your mind is first going to jump to the thought that this is some sort of cipher hidden in the closed captions.
Maybe.
But notice that some of the letters in these captions are different colors than
Right,
the rest
right,
of the
right.
text. That's actually impossible to do on YouTube captions. Yeah, these are physically burned into the video, but just look like YouTube captions. Honestly, this was an amazing way to play with my
That's
expectations,
fire.
and I loved it. Anyway, if we go through and collect all of the differently colored letters, you find that it makes a blank YouTube URL. And as soon as the
okay.
fake captions stop, other letters and numbers start flashing up on screen.
Oh, so it's a
spelling out
website.
This. Now, your first thought may be that this is the rest of the YouTube URL, but it's actually too long to work. If you try to go to the video with this code, it just breaks. But here's
okay.
the cool thing, and shoutouts to Rubex3 on the Game Theory subreddit for helping us figure this one out on GT Live. Down in the description, you'll find this string of numbers, and if you line these up with the previous sequence, you get a new string of text that is the perfect length for a YouTube URL. Plug that sucker in, and voila! A valid link to a brand new video. I combed
What
through
is
this video
that?
frame by frame to make sure that we caught everything, and while there are a ton of hidden images, they're all related to things that we've already seen in Guby. X-rays of children,
Not this
images
puzzle
and
that
cutouts of the
people
missing
definitely
kids,
probably
photographs of
dug into.
animals, diagrams of the human brain, and multiple pieces of what I can only call fan art. But the biggest piece of information we learn here actually comes from the captions once again. Though
Okay.
at first, this might just seem like a strange
Gibberish.
jumble of
Yep.
random words
Yep.
with no rhyme or reason. If you take the first letter of each word here,
Oop.
it actually spells out this message. Ideas are birthed from the mind. He let me in, and through him, I let myself out. The larger pigs have less teeth. The smaller pigs have more to grow. How I feast upon the teeth. How I feast upon the teeth.
Oh my
How I feast upon the teeth.
gosh.
To me, this reads clearly as a message from Guby himself. But what about the teeth?
He likes
That
to eat
is
teeth?
weird,
It
right?
is hella
Yeah,
weird.
It is, but it's also been a recurring
Ugh.
bit throughout the whole series. I mean, there was that time where the subtitles incorrectly told us that all animals have teeth. Teeth are present in a lot of the frame-perfect glitch imagery. And at the
Okay.
end of one of the videos, we see this clip.
Oh, that's a tooth.
Island.
Is that a
This was
lollipop?
pulled from an educational stop-motion animation called The Munchers, a fable meant to help children take care of their teeth.
Okay. Is it from the 70s?
Island.
Teeth are everywhere in this series, but why? Well, that could point to a couple of
This
things.
is just
Firstly,
grossed me
teeth
out where I
dreams.
just want to
Stick
take
with
my
me
teeth
here.
out of
Have
my
you ever had a dream
mouth.
where your teeth just get really loose and start falling out of your head? If you have, you're not alone.
Oh,
It's
dear.
actually a fairly common dream, with philosophers dating back all the way to ancient Greece trying to figure out what they mean. One of the
Okay.
most popular modern interpretations of this is that the teeth in your dreams represent power. Teeth are tools used
Really?
to bite, to rip,
Yeah.
and tear. So
Okay.
that makes sense. Well, Guby is obsessed with teeth precisely because they represent power in the subconscious human brain. And that would matter
okay.
to Guby because Guby is literally a thought manifested into reality. See, back in the Learn Animals video, we encounter another glitch, but this one is different. It's
Okay.
less of a glitch and more of an interruption where
Wow.
we stay on
Yeah.
this series of monologues for a long time.
Really?
They talk about how the narrator's mind has been consumed by thoughts of him, how this narrator imagined his antics, how his name conjured up laughter, joy, innocence, and wonder, how he was an embodiment of childhood itself, and then how he was a manifestation
This
of
is
the
just
narrator's
unsettling.
desires, his aspirations,
Unsettling.
willing itself into existence through the narrator's mind.
Unsettling.
Most importantly, though, this being started taking the wheel, started pulling the strings enough so that the narrator couldn't even remember a time when this being wasn't a part of them. And by the end of it, the narrator was just a vessel for this being to will itself into existence. Not gonna lie, that's really cool. And this idea reminded me
Unsettling.
a lot of something known as a tulpa, or thought form.
What is that?
These are beings that come into existence through the sheer force of someone believing
Oh,
in them hard
manifestation.
enough. Basically, Guby here is not a real being, but was made real because of
They-
whoever imagined him. But this does
Okay,
leave
so-
one major dangling thread.
So two things that makes me think of. One is I think Supernatural had an episode like that where it was just like because a bunch of people believed in it, they created this thing. And then the second thing this makes me think of is JJK, where some of the where when they in one of the gazillion monologues about the lore and power structure in that anime, one of the things was talking about how the strength of I forgot what they're called in the show, but I call them demons. But the strength of them is dependent upon how many people, like the fears and depression and the sadness of the people around it. And that's what kind of conjures this thing. And, you know, it grows or gets stronger because of how many people are around. You know, when it's a city, it can be stronger than like a couple people out in the country, you know? So that's what it makes me think of.
Made Guby originally? Who was the narrator who brought Guby into existence? Well, we can get a pretty good idea of that too. Throughout the glitches, we can see a sharply dressed man
That
wearing a
is
realistic Guby
freaking
mask, surrounded by an audience of children.
disgusting.
Given the width of the man's jacket lapels, the sort of celluloid yellow aesthetic of
Oh
the images,
my
and the audience
gosh.
of kids that he's talking to, this is giving some real 70s show energy to
Right,
it. See,
right.
in the early days of TV, particularly between the 50s and 70s, a lot of sitcoms and children's programming was filmed in front of a live studio
audience, yeah.
This clip from Howdy Doody gives you a pretty good example of what I mean. So it looks like this guy is the originator of Guby, and that he hosted a show as Guby sometime during the 1970s.
So was he
wearing a
doing
mask
creepy
to
stuff?
physically embody Guby to help
So
him
he
take
was
the wheel. Then at some
creepy?
point, Guby made the jump from this sort of classic broadcast TV style program to something digital, and we know that for a fact for a few reasons.
Okay.
Firstly, we often see Guby turn into sort of rudimentary wireframes, which are the backbone of modern 3D animation. Secondly, the dates on the missing persons posters point to them happening sometime in the 2020s. And hey, let's be real, I doubt there are going to be many kids watching anything that isn't digital these days. When you step back and look at all of these pieces on the table, the puzzle becomes so much
That
clearer.
face is
it
creepy.
explains so much. Why is Guby taking the form of a call and response TV series? If kids hear his question and believe that he's real enough to answer him, that would make a tulpa, a being that can only exist if people believe it exists, more powerful.
Yeah,
Why would
it
Guby
adds
be
to
obsessed
it.
with teeth? Well, if teeth represent power in your dreams, and dreams come from your mind, a tulpa would be obsessed with them. Why is Guby targeting kids and kidnapping them? Well, if kids watching his show aren't playing along, aren't believing in him enough to answer his questions the way he wants, when he wants, they'd be making him weaker. Plus, do you know what children happen to have more
It's
of than
kind of
adults?
like-
Teeth. Yeah, kids are born with all of their teeth. They're just inside of their skull. And kids just tend to be far more imaginative
Really?
than adults.
Is that
literally,
real?
Multiple studies have concluded that people become less creative as they age just because they settle into mindsets or
Right,
role
right,
roles.
right.
So again, Guby would want that additional imagination to help him manifest in reality. The pieces
The
just
manifestation
line
and
up
the
far
power.
too well. At this point, there isn't quite enough information to truly solve the mystery of what's going on here in Guby. There are a lot of dangling threads that we just don't have great answers for. For
Okay,
example,
like
there
what?
are other clips from nature documentaries sprinkled throughout the series.
It's because of their large and complex brains that mammals are able to pass survival information from generation to generation.
And another picture that pops up
that
repeatedly in the
that
glitches
guy?
showing this man from the 1930s or 40s. And then there's the song that plays over the narrator's creepy monologue.
What?
This thing?
What is this sound?
This is a real song titled "Any Little Girl That's a Nice Little Girl Is the Right Little Girl for Me."
Ew, that is hella
How
creepy.
does any of that fit with the idea of teeth, or connect with the different eras of entertainment that Gooby's bridging? And what does any of it have to do with the concept
imagine
of a
that's,
tulpa?
like,
Those are all mysteries for another day, my
it
friends.
fits it
Or
more into
who
the
knows?
aspect of the
Maybe
kids.
Gooby was made by a dentist who was just really into retro music.
Oh,
Either
dear.
way, I for one can't wait to take a bite out of the next part of Gooby's story.
I don't need to.
But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut.
Okay, this was...
If you want another theory about a cool...
This is hella creepy. I want you guys to define analog horror for me. Is it the glitchy? That's what it is when it's that glitchy? Because yes, what Baddington, I think he had mentioned, definitely fits into it, and you're just like trying to get into the lore of it. But it's like the creepiness of like, there's an unsettling air to that type of horror where it makes you feel like some of this is real. And they really dive into that aspect that some of this is real. And it just, I feel unsettled. I feel like there are some kids out there that are missing. Well, I know that there are kids missing, but I mean, I just feel like you feel like some people enjoy that. And there's this, that which is hella unsettling. It's very unsettling. It is extreme. I have no other words than to say that this Gooby thing and things like it is just unsettling. And the fact that it takes children and they go missing, it also makes me think of Amanda, that Amanda game. I forgot the end of it, but The Adventure, because it has that glitchy horror and it is like kids missing. It's just something about kids missing that's unsettling to me. Stop taking kids, y'all. Okay, those who are taking kids, stop. Take animals, as long as you're taking care of them. Actually, just don't take anything. Don't take anything or anybody. Okay, let's just do that. I think that's a fair thing to say. You know. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I need to shake it off, because this was very unsettling for me. Links down below to become a member or patron to get the uncut reaction on the shows that we check out. I love you guys as always, and until next time, buddies. Toodles.